Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Keys to AWS Optimization, where today we're going to be talking about some new announcements in the world of CloudWatch. And these guys are going to come and explain it to me. I'm super excited. We were just saying this before we came on camera, that I get so fortunate doing this show where I get to bring experts in to teach me personally and all of you about these cool things to help you optimize. But before we start, let's get into our kind of casual question, which is, have you guys had a frugal week or a splurgy week? Jean, why don't you go first?
Yeah, well, thanks. So on my end, it was more a frugal week, mostly because I was recovering from some whatever kept me tired over the weekend. But nevertheless, very productive meetings that took place. So I'm very happy so far.
Nice. And Didi, what about you?
Yeah, I would like to call it a kiosk week because we are planning for Diwali great this year and it's next week, taking a couple of days off as well. Kids are very excited. We bought some firecrackers as well, a lot of sweets, a lot of people very excited.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool. So I was debating whether I should share this, but I almost had a splurgy week because I almost had my phone snatched this morning. So any of my London EMEA people, keep your eyes on your phones. At 6:30 a.m. someone tried to steal my phone. I was just like, who's awake at 6:30 thinking I'm going to go try and steal someone's phone right now? It doesn't feel like the right time. So almost, but luckily I was fine. And it wasn't too bad at all. Eri Edit says I had to buy some spooky stuff, so it was a bit splurgy for me, which I love. Getting into the seasonal stuff. There's my kind of seasonal bits and bobs, which I love. Oh, people in the chat, I think that was scary. I hope you're okay. I'm fine. I have a very strong grip. As you know, I do a lot of competitions in strength sport, so luckily I was able to out-grip the thief. But yeah, let's get into the show. So welcome everyone to the Keys to AWS Optimization, the show where we share stories, concepts, and solutions to help you unlock your spend at AWS. My name is Steph Gooch. I'm a senior SA advocate here to help you on your FinOps journey. Let's get into these guys 1 minute origin story. Jean, do you want to go first? I know you've been on before, but just to reintroduce yourself to the folks watching.
Yeah, thanks, Steph. So precisely, very happy to be back and share again here. I'm a senior product manager with CloudWatch, and as a product manager with CloudWatch, I've been very happy to launch a lot of features, especially around alarms and metrics. And with regards to that, obviously we're cooking some new things that I can't really talk about towards reInvent, but we're now here to take a look back at what we've launched previously this year and make a little bit of sense of those, all of those different things.
Oh, nice. Brilliant. Okay, so some fun stuff coming up at reInvent. And reminder, we'll do through, have you got a reInvent talk as well? Did I imagine this? John?
Sorry. That's...
Yeah, I love it.
Is that what you're asking?
No, but do you have are you giving a session at reInvent?
I'm preparing one. Unfortunately, for personal reasons, I won't be able to deliver it. So I'm working with some amazing people to deliver it in my name. But don't worry, there will be some really nice sessions.
Yeah. Make sure to share the session ID and we'll kind of highlight that
I will.
before we finish up. GD, do you want to do yours too?
Sure. So my name is Gagandeep Singh. I'm a senior technical account manager. I just completed 3 years earlier this week at AWS, so had a very exciting journey. So today, as John mentioned, we're going to talk about some of the new features and cool stuff. And in regards to reInvent, I'm leading AI Ops kiosk there. So there's a lot happening on AI around, and there are cool features coming as well and cool stories. So we'll look forward to see you all there as well. Yep.
Perfect. I love that. Greetings from Costlayer and welcome everyone in the chat. Please drop any questions, comments in the chat where you are watching us now, either on YouTube or Twitch. And if you're watching us on demand, pop any questions or comments in that comments box at the bottom and we'll make sure to pick those up. But let's get into what we're actually talking about, which is some new features that you guys came to me and you were like, hey, we really think this would be great to come on to Keys. And we're going to talk a little bit about alarms and how you can kind of reconfigure some stuff to make it a little bit more optimal. But John, do you want to kick off with kind of explaining what this new feature is and what we're going to be looking at today?
Sure, with pleasure. Just one thing before I dive into the future, I wanted to call out one of the reasons why we're here today is because if you go to the What's New page and you look at what CloudWatch has announced since the start of the year, we're already past the 115 What's New posts that quote CloudWatch. And yes, I know.
Wow.
So when you when you look into that and you wonder, how can I know what's really important, what really matters to me? Are those connected? Like, are some of those launches, working together to paint a different picture than if I look at them one by one?
Mhm.
That's exactly what we want to do today, is to put a little bit of perspective on some launches that if you look at them in isolation, you might think that there are some great improvements in some areas. But if you look at them together, it then paints a different picture and helps you understand, oh, wow, there is something new that I can do here that I was not able to do before. And so those things work not just in isolation, but together.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about just one launch. We're talking about at least 3 launches here. The first one is, I'm going in chronological order of how we announced them. The first one is the ability for an alarm to evaluate multiple metrics in every time the alarm evaluates. The second one is the ability for the queries that you write over your metrics in CloudWatch to look back over 2 weeks of time.
Mhm.
And the third one is the ability to use your resource tags in the queries that you write on your metrics in CloudWatch. So, like I said, if I just tell you that one by one, you probably don't really see how they stitch together. And that's what we're going to try to walk you through, and also understand how that can really help revamp the way you think about creating your alarms and managing your alarms in CloudWatch.
Yeah, and I'm just dropping all the links in the chat wherever you guys are. So there's got brilliant announcements. If you want to dive deep into those, have a little look. And just a couple of other things. Your remit session is COP327. Go and check that out. Also, later on, I'll be running through my sessions and the optics teams ones, so you can get that. Rachel from Chicago. Hey again, Rachel. Nice to see you again. There's some other questions. There's some comments about my phone and saying I'm very strong. I am. That don't want to divert the conversation. So let's get into setting the scene about this. Multi-use for alarms is the first one we want to cover, right? And about what that actually means and looks like when it comes to setting these up, because it sounds quite useful. Like, now I don't have to do one for every single one of my resources. Is that right? Yeah,
exactly. That is the main benefit and the main reason that the customers ask us to do it. It's that you can, if you create one alarm that will evaluate different resources and then let you know exactly which resource fails. One of the things that is really cool with that is that you don't really care, if you add more resources or if you delete some resources. Like when you have something dynamic, some auto-scaling group, every new resources that matches your definition will automatically be monitored by the alarm. And when you stop the resource, you don't care either to manage anything, to delete an alarm or.
Interesting. So if your resources change and things like that, it all kind of covers the resources you have. Sorry, does that make sense? If your resources change, the alarm still covers them. Yes. Very good. So less overhead. How does that work in terms of, if you're doing this in terms of infrastructure as code and you create that alarm, what parameters do you put in to cover it then? That's kind of going off track. That's going off track. But did that make sense? That good question?
Yeah, no, that's fair. And then that's exactly one of the things that JD is going to show in a few minutes, because we're going to walk you through exactly what it looks like, how it works, and so you will be able to see it in action, which is even better than any words that I could give you. But just in a nutshell, before we even go to that demo, very simply put, you write a query. So instead of creating alarms in your infrastructure as code for every resource that you create, you create just one alarm up front with a query, which we will see also in a few minutes. It's like an SQL language. So it's like a select the name of your metric from the name of the namespace that your metric belongs to. And then you put some filters, some close to group by the results, so you have different results. And everything that comes out of this query is going then to be monitored by your alarm as if you had multiple individual alarms defined.
Cool. I've got a question, which is, are there any workarounds for implementing this if you're not familiar with SQL?
Oh, I love this question. JD will show you, because no, it is really important. JD will show you 3 different ways to create the alarm. Fundamentally, you use the SQL language, and everything you do will always translate to the SQL language in the end. But in order to help you, there is also a visual builder where you just click the metrics and namespace or whatever you need. Even though if you want more help than that, you can write in plain natural language in English, and we have a query assistant that will turn that into an SQL query.
Ah, interesting. And when it comes to customers, you mentioned some people have used this, kind of what's the impact that you've seen, especially when you think about in terms of optimization, maybe cost and time? What have you seen happen?
We're already diving into straight away into the maybe one of the most important impacts. So we'll probably elaborate a little bit more on that later, but definitely the biggest impact is the reduction in the costs of maintenance of operations. Like, you have way less alarms to create when you tune them. So if you have to adapt the threshold, the conditions of your alarm, you only have one alarm to update. So you save a lot of time. It's so much easier to manage. You also have only one alarm in your list of alarms, and this alarm now has more context and will give you more information. So every alarm sort of gains more value in itself. So yeah, this is where the most visible and most immediate benefit happens. But we'll talk a little bit more after about other benefits that might be less obvious.
In that case, shall we jump into the demo?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to set the scene any more, Judy, about what we're going to showcase today?
So I have 2 applications. I'm calling it e-commerce website, and in the backend, I'm using EC2 for compute. And talk about what happens when the CPU utilization goes up. How do we monitor all of them together in a single query? And I'm going to walk through to the whole process and what are the actions available that we have. So first thing what I've done is, since I mentioned we're going to use a use case of EC2 CPU utilization, I've created a CPU stress dashboard. So this is 2 of my EC2 out of 10 that I have from 2 different applications. This is basically a custom widget that I'm using, and it's using Lambda in the back. So it's basically using a system manager run command that you can also see on the screen, and it's going to stress 20 minutes so that we can work on the alarms. By the way, this is very cool. Custom widgets are really cool. Do look at the documentation. We'll post a link as well. You can actually have data from other places and create your own display. So that's great. So next, I'm going to jump into CloudWatch alarm window. And I'm going to create an alarm. I'm going to select a metric. So metric is basically what you are planning to monitor, like CPU, memory, or you could also have a custom metric. So first way is I can actually go by EC2 and create alarms one by one, which takes a lot of effort to manage operationally, as well as take times to create. You can always use infrastructure as a code, but think about managing it later on, right? You have to manage it on your own. Instead of this option, what we want to do today is we want to create a metric insight query. And that's what Joan elaborated, that we'll have a single query and that adapts based on the criteria, in this case, the number of EC2. As Joan mentioned, we have an editor. If you have variables with a SQL query, you can just add it, or we can use a query builder. And I'll also talk about the natural language that in case you're not very well versed with the queries itself. So what is Metric Insight query? So Metric Insight is basically a high query engine. It's within CloudWatch that enables you to analyze, group, aggregate your metrics at scale, and it works in real time. So in regards to the namespace, it's a container that we provide system-defined namespaces for various services. For this case, I'm going to use AWS EC2, and I want per instance metrics. I'm going to use maximum CPU utilization as my condition. So it's a metric name. And group by. So group by is basically whatever you will put in group by, that's the information you'll get out of the alarm once the alarm reach the stage. So I would like to have an instance ID, and we are going to look at the notification, and we'll also talk about some of the other that you can do. So I'm going to select instance ID for this case.
With the instance ID, so that's even though this is multi-source, is that just looking at one source, or is it? Oh no, you're grouping by instance ID. Sorry,
I'm grouping by
It's
ID because
you have the options.
yeah.
Sorry.
So
because you can filter by or you can group by. So the filter would do what you described. It would only look at a specific resource or a specific list of resources. The group by will take everything that matches the rest of the query, and then slice it by what you've defined. So what we're doing here is really we're looking at all of the EC2 instances because we haven't defined any filter. And all of the EC2 instances, we're looking at them one by one because we're grouping by instance. So we really have the most granular visibility possible here on EC2.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John. And I'm going to come back on the filter by option. We can also filter by tags, which is really cool. And we'll talk about how it makes everyone's life easier as well. So we will come back on that. Let's stick to a simple example now. I also want to order by descending. I want to see my high CPU instances first, and it will descend. You always need to graph a query before you move next. Otherwise, this will gray out. This will also help you validate your query. So as you can see, I have 10 instances listed. And I have an instance name at the end as well, which is listed on this graph. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this as a metric. And I'm going to set a threshold. Threshold is basically when this condition is reached. So if a CPU utilization goes more than 80%, then I would like to see this alarm in alarm state. So I'm going to go next. Oops, there's one thing I'd like to change quickly. I'll go back and change the period to 1 minute so we don't wait for longer time for this demo. All right. So now what about the actions? So there are various actions that you can do when alarm goes in an alarm state or comes back to an OK state. Some of the actions are, for example, a notification that I would like to be notified. For this case, I already have created SMS topic, and I'm going to send it on an email, which I will show you as well what information you can capture or what are the different options. You can also do a Lambda action, and Lambda really helps you to do a lot of things that you want to do as part of your automation, right? You may want to shut down, you may want to start something in different scenarios based on the service. You can always do an scaling option. There is a EC2 action that are available. You can always create, which will automatically, and you can also do a system manager action, right? For this case, we are talking about just EC2, but alarms work in different perspective, right? It could be based on your business. For example, if it's an e-commerce website, let's assume an order drops suddenly. to a certain limits and you want certain actions to be taken or certain people to be notified, you can do that, right? So think from different service perspective, there could be different actions, but the overall in the configure action option, you have a lot of options, and Lambda actually give you endless things that you can actually achieve. So I'm going to go next. We are going to give a name. I'm going to just call it multi-metric alarm. Let's add a test. And you can also add a description. Now we recommend to have a dashboard link to Alarm, so it's easy to visualize, and you can actually use the same query that we have created. So you need not to do a different query. You can actually reuse the same query in a dashboard, or think about you might want a runbook to be part of description. When I get an alert, let's say over an email, I also get a description field, and I can have a runbook or different aspects of it that we want people to be notified or to be used. Right?
That's really clever, because the amount of times I get people just like, what is this alarm for? And you have to go dig around and it wastes so much time. That's really clever.
Yeah. I'm just going to call it this as a test. So now this is a page where you preview and create. You can re-verify your query, go back to it. You can verify your condition and the actions. And I'm going to click create alarm. So alarm is now created. And as you can see on the screen, I have all the instances listed. By the way, I only have 10. If I have more on this account in this region, you would have seen more instances. If I just hover around these bars, you could already see that I have two of the instances, which is 99 point some percent of CPU already, right? So this is a very easy way to take a look and also to check which instances are on a higher CPU in this case.
Mm-hmm.
And to get a bar which tells you on what period alarm was in what state. Was it in OK state, meaning it did not meet the condition, or it was in alarm state? So we're going to see that in a moment with the help of the colors. We also see different contributors that are part of this alarm, right? So you can see a contributor label, an ID, an instance ID as well. And I have all 10 of them listed. And once we go to the filtering, as we spoke about, we'll see how things change, right? And details about the alarm, you can again re-verify your query. You can go to history just to see what happened with that alarm, right? So let me just refresh this. It will take a minute. And I'm going to go to my email.
Oh, wow.
Now, in terms of notification, we only created one alarm, right? And I said that I want a notification on a particular email address. But as we have seen, there are two instances which has met the criteria, who has met the threshold, right? Single notification that I've received, one for each instances. And as you type deep, if I click this, you'll go back to that particular query for this particular instance. So this is very quick to check which instance is in alarm state. And you can see this is an alarm. I'm filtering by the contributor ID. You also have other information that alarm state change. This became from OK to in alarm. It also tells you the reason that we have specified. It gives you the instance ID. Now this helps you with various automation as well and gives you full picture that you can use. It also gives you what is the metric expression that was used. And same way, I have other instance listed as well, my second instance.
And that description, you can see there's that test.
Yeah, so this is the description. This is the place where you can use a link, runbooks, or a link to a dashboard, as you like. So I'm going to go back.
While you're bringing up that, I'll just say, anyone comments, questions in the chat, please drop us. And if you've joined us halfway through, then we're talking all about these new announcements and how to connect different announcements that have come out from the CloudWatch team. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah, so you can see on the bar, I have a status change by colored, so I can easily go into a particular time frame and look at what really happened. And that gives me clear indication of start and end times. It tells me contribution. There are two basically instances in this case, right, that are in alarm state. Mm-hmm. Now back and see some of the other things that you can do with the metric insight query. So I'm going to go back in actions. I'm going to add it the same alarm. So let's now quickly take a look on filter by. As I mentioned, I have two applications in this scenario, app A and app B. So assume there's a team which is very focused on a particular application, in this case for EC2. So they can just make use of tags. So I have tag pre-set up. I'm going to select tag application equals to, in my case, A. That's what I want to see. And
Okay.
let's also make use of group by. So we spoke about instance ID that we have seen in the notification, but what if I also want to know environment or other information? I can also have a tag in group by. So I'm going to go back, I'm going to select a tag environment. Now it's also going to specify which environment based on the tagging that I have done already, right? I'm going to just select this. I'm going to skip, preview and update, and I'm just going to update this. So the moment I updated, you will see, I think I did not query. Sorry for that. I'm going to go back.
No worries.
If you don't run the query, actually it doesn't.
Oh, you have to do the graph query button.
Yeah. That part. So I'm going to go back.
Well,
tag
I've definitely learned something specifically there where that I would do. I would message them, be like, guys, it's not working. And it's like, you have to run the button. Now it's a good tip for everyone watching, hit that graph. So you have to do that beforehand, and then you see the result. And then.
Yes.
Yeah. And as I did a graph query, you can see the whole scene changed, right? So now I have 5 instances. 5 instances part of my application A. And you can also see a tag of prod, right? Because these 5 reflects that they are part of the prod. And this is again coming from the tagging. I'll go back. I'll skip the preview. And this is where I noticed, because I saw everything and then I noticed I didn't update it.
So because you just got an alarm for the one that was already, sorry, because you got a notification because it went into alarm, but now you've edited the alarm, will you get a new notification, or will it understand that that's
Absolutely receive a new notification because I've updated the alarm. It's going to reevaluate every time you edit. So it's again.
Go on, sorry.
Yeah, it's already in alarm state, and I'm going to show you the notification again with what details you see.
How often does so say it alarm? So say something I did something today, it alarms. Does it go? Is there like a cycle where it would re-alarm at any point after, or is it just one alarm as soon as it gets into that state?
So you get a notification, and it's all if you go back to my state, so you always set like what you want to do when it goes to an alarm and what actions you want to take when it goes back to okay, right? So I only took an action when it goes to alarm. I want a notification, but you can also have the okay state to notify you or take any actions that are possible with that alarm.
So it's not like a reoccurring. You won't get an alarm like every day when it's set. It's just going to be like that one time. So you have to really have. The thing I'm trying to get to is you really have to choose a good strategy for afterwards, because if you just get an email and you delete it, you could leave it in alarm state forever, right?
Yes. So there are quite a few things here. First one is the state stays as long as the metric keeps on being on breaching. So if your CPU remains consistently above 80%, the alarm stays in alarm. That being said, so if it goes back below the threshold, then the alarm changes state to okay and so on. But the alarm could stay in alarm for a long time if you don't solve the issue, and it won't send new notifications because the alarm just stays in the same state. The multi-metric alarm, even if the alarm itself shows that it is an alarm, it is made of different contributors. And if at some point in time you have one contributor that is in alarm, so you receive a message from this contributor, and if in 5 minutes another of those contributors was going into alarm, you would receive a new message for that second contributor, and so on. So there is something slightly different here compared to the usual parametric alarms, in that every time a new contributor will start failing itself, it will trigger a notification specific to that contributor.
I understand. Okay, brilliant. We've also had a question. So, oh yeah, go on.
I just want to go back to your question on re-notification, right? If somebody deletes. So you have seen one of the action that we got is Lambda, and you can do anything with the Lambda, right? Almost anything. So if you want re-notification after a certain interval, so you can. So you can have multiple actions, and then you can, for sure. Yeah. Let's go to the questions.
Yeah. So this one is, how much does the multi-metric alarm cost? And is it different than a single alarm in comparison for cost of it?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question, a very important one. And there is a very simple answer and a more complicated one. So bear with me, and I will just try to explain why I'm saying it this way. But don't worry, it's a good news story. So the very simple answer is it's the same price. Fundamentally, in CloudWatch Alarm, you pay for every metric that is being evaluated. So if you have a CloudWatch Alarm on a single metric, then you pay for one metric being alarmed on. If you have a CloudWatch Alarm on something that adds metrics together, you pay per metric that is being added. And if you have an alarm on a query like that, you pay on the number of metrics that the query finds. So here the metric the query finds metric. So you would pay for 5 metrics that are evaluated by the alarm, which is exactly the same as if you were creating 5 individual alarms, each one for each resource. So fundamentally, simple answer, same price. Where it gets slightly more complex, and which is in fact can be very interesting, is this is much faster and much more adaptable than if you create the alarms manually. Because what happens when you create, update, and delete your alarms manually? Usually, you would run your code to create your alarms at the same time than you create your instances. So you create your alarms maybe 5 or 10 minutes before your instance becomes available and starts emitting metrics. And you pay for the alarm from the moment that it has been created. So you start paying for the alarm even though it's not doing any work yet, because the instance is not live yet. And when you take down an instance, because you scale down or you shut down some instances, most of the time, a lot of customers, they either delete the alarms, 1 day or 1 week later. Like a lot of customers, they have some cadence to go over the alarms that are not needed anymore and do the housekeeping. So they keep on paying for 1 day, 2 day, maybe 1 week for an alarm that is not doing any work anymore because the resource has been taken down.
Yeah.
With a dynamic alarm, you don't pay until the metric starts being emitted. And when the metric stops being evaluated because you've taken down the resource, you stop paying for that resource. So it's much more cost following than the alarms that you create or maintain manually, because it will adapt automatically to your workload, to what you have.
That's great. That saves so much time in both efficiency of how much you're going to spend when you're using it and then not using it. And then also, I feel like reminding the time to set these up, like setting it up. So on that, is there any guidance from your experience of who sets these up? So if I think back to maybe if I am deploying resources in an account and I would make an alarm per my instance, like when I build it, versus now I could use this multi-alarm and multi-metric alarm, and I could cover all the kind of EC2s in my account. Is it better for me to kind of set that up as like a central resource that I use that gets deployed like in every account that follows the rules, or should people be doing it? Should it, I wonder, like, I'm trying to think of the question, how to word it. Should it be that, say, a CloudOps team or a central team, hey, every account gets one of these alarms and then that's how you deal with it? Or do you think more people are going to be doing it within their building processes and stuff like that?
So it's flexible. So you're going to do to use them the way you want, because you could use them just on specific subsets, specific workloads, specific applications. You can craft a template that you request all the teams that you work with to use. You can also you mentioned a few times, like, you create the alarms in your account. Yes, you can, and but you can also create alarms in a monitoring account. So you can have some alarms that live in every team's account, where you will set the alarms that are specific to your project, or the alarms that your team owns and your team acts upon. And in addition, if you have a platform team, if you have a central monitoring team who has gained visibility into your accounts through federating the monitoring, they can also use the exact same technique to create an alarm that will span across multiple accounts. And in that case, they will probably want to write the alarm slightly differently. And this is where the fact that it's really flexible and that you can do, you can write the group by, as we saw, just the way you want. A platform team, for example, doesn't really need to look maybe at instance level. That's probably not something they really want. They probably want to look at group by account, and maybe group by something that is a tag that belongs to them, like a version of the platform or a version of the framework that you would be using. And that would be what the central monitoring team would want, whereas the individual team would probably want the per resource granularity, and then would use the instance ID in the query. So like nearly same query or very similar ones, but very different visibility that you get into, and you just really can adapt to the needs of the team that writes the query.
Just to drill down on that, so I remember a while ago there was, is it like organization observability, where you could have an account be able to look into other accounts? Observability. It's that when I'm saying it now. But the
yes,
is the alarms, can that? Wow, can you do that with alarms as well? Is my question.
So you can do that with more than alarms. Like every query on metrics, with the queries that we just saw, is by design cross account when you use this federated organization level observability.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm calling this out is because it means it also works on your dashboards. If you use those same queries on your dashboards, you can have then a per account view or a per account granularity slicing on your dashboard. So you can use that in your alarms. Yes. Short answer is yes. And long answer is yes as well, but not just on alarms. Everywhere you use the queries in CloudWatch.
Great. Okay, we have a couple of questions, so let's dive into those before we jump back to the demo. Can you schedule to auto delete alarms? So I guess if you have one that just sits across all of them and you don't need to, but I guess if people wanted to use a singular alarm, is there a way to auto delete them?
I had not received that feature yet, so I can add this to the feature list, but so we don't have that kind of feature today.
But I guess this is what the announcement solves, isn't it? Because you don't need to delete them, because it would be, it's only, it can exist without any, question then. All right. Because I remember you teaching me about that when you have metrics that have when you have alarms that have insufficient data, you still pay for them. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, because you pay for the fact that the alarm is doing work for you.
The
alarm is trying to fetch data, it's trying to evaluate something, and if you made a mistake and then there is no metric behind, the alarm still is doing some work, which is why yes.
Yeah. So if you created the MMA and you had it for all instances in an account, but all of the instances got deleted from the account, would you still pay? Would the alarm still have cost associated to it?
There is a floor of one metric. If there is no metric at all, the alarm will consider that there is one metric for the work that the alarm is doing. Yeah.
Okay, so it will still incur costs and still like be doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is like, it's rare that then you have to get, that's a situation where you should get rid of the alarm, where you have insufficient
Yes.
data.
And for that, the solutions I will find the blog post, maybe we can share, but we had a blog post with a solution that allows to keep track of alarms that have been stale and do nothing in your account, which can be a nice way to look for an alarm that you would have to delete. Or you can also use the recently released CloudWatch MCP server to just ask the question to Q, like any Cairo or what alarms have not changed state recently. Which alarm should I look into for possible misconfiguration or not being useful?
Brilliant.
I just want to.
Oh yeah, go for it.
I just want to share, since John mentioned about the queue and the key row, right? So this whole setup, even the stress dashboard, is built using queue. So please make use have around how to do things, or try with queue first. Yeah, back to you.
Agree. Yeah, no, great call out. There's so many things. We're like, how do you get started? Use Amazon Q. It's people are saying recently, I think, that which kind of makes sense, is that we're kind of relying on AI to do a lot of work for us, and we're like not retaining information a lot. What I would do is definitely like get Q to explain things and how it does it to you, so that you can repeat it and you can understand it. Because I think that's people are missing a lot, is they're like, hey, go build this thing, and then you have no idea what it's done. And what that can lead to is kind of really hard to troubleshoot. You might not understand where your costs are coming from. It could have security vulnerabilities because you don't know how it's connected. So always kind of validate what's going on. The question I was going to ask is this available in GovCloud, or is it only in the commercial ones? What are they called? The normal ones?
Yeah. So again, I'm going to give a simple and a more elaborate answer.
Okay.
The simple answer is multi-metric alarm is available everywhere. So very simple. The thing is, we called out 3 different features. We talked about multi-metric alarms, the ability to look back at 2 weeks of data with the queries, and the ability to use the tags that you saw in action in JD's demo. Those 2 other features are not yet available everywhere. We are still rolling them out in additional regions. So please just make sure that you check the What's New post to double check which region you are using. But the very first one, the multi-metric alarm, yes, it's available everywhere already.
Excellent. And last one before we go back to some of the natural language section, is there a way to check if an alarm has been reviewed or opened, like I think the notification was opened, and could we check for idle alarms in the portal?
A way to check if the alarm has been opened, I don't think so. Like the alarms don't have any information about who viewed them or who opened them, and the actions that the alarm takes, like sending a notification or posting an event to event breach, calling a Lambda, the alarm itself doesn't know about it. Like you would know if a Lambda has been triggered, because you can obviously go to the Lambda history and you can see that it has been called, but the alarm itself is not aware of that information.
Yeah, you can do SNS off of the alarm, right? So you could always, if you have that situation, you're like, I want to be able to check if anyone done it. You could always set up something that connects maybe to your Slack or your Teams or whatever you can, because I know people do that a lot, and then you could have it kind of, has anyone reacted to it in the chat? And you set a process where whoever's going to own investigating kind of has the tick emoji or something like that. That could be a workaround, or creating some kind of, like through SNS, creating a Jira ticket or something like that. So you could have it that there's a process like that to make sure, because I know we have the email example because it is like the base example, isn't it? That we all love to see. But then when it comes to the reality of working on those kind of alerts, you do need some kind of process to. Amazon
Yes.
can only give you all the information, but we can't make you do anything about it. So you have to come up with a good process. Should we jump back to the demo?
Sure. Thank you, Steph. Just a quick comment, you can always set up a dashboard for these alarms. I have for application A a separate dashboard and an application B and a combined. Or you can have even your business metrics in terms of alarms in the dashboard. Do check out. We know we're not diving into dashboard. It's for some other day, but do take a look. Just quickly continuing before we go to the natural language, I quickly want to call out in the notification that we received when we updated the alarm information on the tag, which is environment is equal to prod. In this case, please keep in mind that you need to enable tags in the cloud before playing with the tags information. All right, so let's go to the natural language, and I'm just going to change the region because it's available in certain regions. I can go back to the alarm, or I can also create from metrics the query that we wanted to create. Let me just move this little up. So once you are on the query page, we spoke about iter builder, and by the way, there are also some sample queries that are available for you to consume. And there's documentation available as well. We'll post in the chat link about the query. But in case you're not very well versed with queries and you want to use a prompt, you can come to multi-source query either through alarm or through metrics and give a prompt. So I'm going to say I want to look at the top 10 EC2 by CPU. And I'll click on generate query.
Ooh.
And you can see it has already by namespace, a metric name, it's grouping by instance ID, and it has taken average. I would like to have a maximum, but yeah, I can reprompt it and can change it. So I'm going to click a graph query. And you can see now a CPU utilization for my different. And again, I can always say filter by tags and stuff that we have seen. So it gives me more information. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to show from the natural language query.
I think there's something that I would like to show on the alarms after you've modified it to add the tags. Yeah, thanks. So when we go to the list to the table of contributors, one thing that yes, thanks, exactly. You're in my mind. What I wanted to show is the list of columns here is dynamic and will depend on what you wrote in the query. So if you said in your query, I want to see my metrics by instance ID, you only have an instance ID column. If you say I want to see my metrics by instance ID tag environment, you have the 2 columns and so on. So if you have a lot of metadata where all of that metadata can bring you useful information, you can actually pile it up in the group by query. It won't, if it doesn't change the number of metrics, you would still get the same graph, but you will get more information in the table, which then can make it easier for you to consume and also to filter, because those columns, they are available for filtering. If you click at the top of the screen in the filter by property filter, so just below the alarm name at the top of the screen. It's really at the top on the left hand side, just below the alarm name. Yes.
Oh, the filter.
Yes.
Oh, underneath MMA. At the very between MMA and graph on the graph picture. Is that what you mean? Filter
yes, above the graph. It's just above the graph.
It's this game of like up, okay, left,
and
up a little bit,
and 10 pixels. Yes.
Okay.
here.
Oh,
So here you can
The
see
fun is
the list of, sorry about that, the list of columns where you have instance ID and tag health. So here, all of the metrics here have the same tag, but let's pretend that half of the metrics have the tag PRD and half of the metrics would have the tag test. By applying a filter on this tag, you would filter out half of your metrics. Then you can use this even to do side-by-side comparison. If you have, for example, two instances that should have the exact same kind of workload, just filter the noise out if you have 100 metrics to isolate a few metrics that you want to look at more specifically, especially when you do post-mortem analysis. When you review an incident after it happened, you can focus on this.
I know we're coming up to the end of the session. So before we do our kind of Richard's secret Richard summary, goodness, I feel like I need another coffee, and some real stuff. Anything else you guys want to mention before we finish up?
I just want, sorry, I'll go first, JD.
Yeah, so I just want to summarize a little bit on MMA on what we learned today. So we saw that you can monitor multiple resources through a single alarm. You can get specific details about which resources trigger an issue, right? You only get notification for those out of a bigger window. You can execute a target actions on the individual resources that met the threshold. And it really helps you maintain the granular control and simplify the management, right? We have been listening to customer, and this feature is based on the feedback that we received from group of our various customers, right? So and always keep sharing that feedback. Yeah, back to you, John.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, just I'm emphasizing on the fact that with the help of something that is more dynamic, one of the important things is to really buy peace of mind, because you know that once you've set up something that is generic enough or large enough to monitor your most critical workloads, you don't really have to care anymore about anybody adding more resources, anybody adding more metrics. You know that they will be monitored and you will be warned if something goes wrong. And we've done all of the demo with banded metrics, but it really works with any metrics. So custom metrics as well. No worries. You can have dynamic monitoring on them as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much, guys. All right, a couple of announcements before we do our secret, Richard. This is specifically one of my talks. There's still some room in this one. The other one is full, so get on if you want to learn more about, we mentioned Q today, but some optimization recommendations, which we mentioned CloudWatch as well, then please sign up for Dev 318. We also have a bunch of talks by the optics team, people that you know and love who have been on this show many times. Take a screenshot of this. We have lots of different types of talk, so make sure to get into those. We also have a bunch by the SA team that I work with, which we've had some people from. If people saw my sessions with Vidya on the TNC channel, we have that one. And then the guys from the PACE team who we had... who do we have on last week? Stefan on last week. Those guys have some sessions. And there's also, if you go to the builders fair, there's a cornhole thing where like they watch you do cornhole and then they make a AI generated what's it called, commentary highlights reel really fast, which just looks super, super cool. So if you're in the builders fair and you see that, tell them so Steph saying hi. And as always, we also have our LinkedIn page. So if you want to hear about any more of these announcements, reinvent talks, whatever, check out the Customer Acceleration Team LinkedIn group. And if you want to see a recap of all of the episodes and summaries that we have, then check out Builders Center. You can find me on there, follow me, and you can see both the Keys show, all the upcoming episodes, and of course my Build Like AWS show that I do on Mondays. You can check that out too. On to the very last thing, which is our Secret Richard summary. So as a reminder, Richard listens to the show, writes out a very fun announcement, and I read it blind. So let's see what he did for us this week. CloudWatch Query Alarm, Metric Insights, and Tag Launches. Individually, they're great, but combined, they are awesome. No need to manually manage separate alarms anymore, which is amazing. Create MMA via a prompt with natural language, and Steph is better than a thief. I was looking at the last one. I was like, what's that one? If you've joined us and you're confused about that last one, just go back and watch from the very start, wherever you were watching us from today. There so many amazing sessions. Make sure to check out other videos wherever you're watching us from. Subscribe wherever you're watching. And next week we've got some more episodes. We've got a bunch more episodes this season. We are kind of interrupted by reInvent and Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff like that, so are less. But make sure you just subscribe while you're watching. And thank you all for joining us. And we'll end it there. We will see you guys next time. Bye.